Hey everyone, welcome to my designed new Furman 18-hole course. Let's get right into it. So how it works is we have a 4-hole loop stretching down this side of track, going down and looping around through the path, and then we continue on the typical route of the current Furman 9. So for hole 1, we'll share a tee box with hole 5, but hole 1, start here. I don't know if you can see that red flag to my right, to your left, and then it ends just in front of this left shorter light pole. There is a little red flag in the ground that does show where the basket will be, but I'm sure it's very hard to see. Measured at about 220. You can take this wide hyzer out to the right or just a straight shot right at it. I'll try and show you both. First, we'll do the straight shot. Something like that, maybe a little wide and a little deep. Actually, that's right on it. So that's kind of the straight-ish route. And what I like about this hole is it starts you off pretty simple, but a lot of times you'll get a wind, either headwind or tailwind, so this hole is by no means a gimme. Here's the wide hyzer. And both of those would be parked. So as it turns out, both of my shots went a little long. This one probably, the wide hyzer here with the tactic, probably edge of circle. And my first straight shot probably a little over 20 feet. But here's the green, just a nice little patch. Again, about 220 downhill, and sometimes you'll get a wind that causes a little issue. This course, as you'll notice, is mostly designed for the beginner to intermediate, but I wanted it to not be so easy that the upper level, the players that are above 900 rated couldn't have a good time playing here. So this course will be shorter, but it is by no means a pitch and putt. Here is our tee of 2. I picked this nice open flat area because we will not be having turf tee pads or concrete tee pads at the moment. That could possibly happen in the future if we do get a lot of activity here. The shape of the line is basically just a more exaggerated version of hole 1, similar distance to just a slight hyzer, kind of blind shot, but nothing too crazy. This left electrical pole, the basket is a little short and left of that. So I'll try and show you what the line would hopefully look like. So the one tree that I clipped at the end is the one sort of obstacle for this hole, where if you really try and saw it off left a little tight, you will run into that tree and you won't really have a putt, which is by design. So you do have to commit to that width, get that width correct to have a look for 2, ideally. Alrighty, so while I did clip this last tree here, I would end up in a pretty good position here, probably about 12 to 15 feet of the pin here. I'm going to stand right where the pin is going to be because it's hard to see these flags on camera, on video. But this nice little flat area, just short of this pole, not super exaggerated on that hyzer, but if you do over hyzer or get too much of that hyzer angle, you do end up in this lower shelf with this walking trail here, giving you a little bit of a tougher putt by design. And it's far enough away that yes, this will be the fairway of 3, but players teeing off on 3 will be safe enough from drives on hole 2. Here is the intended tee of 3. I kind of put this here so you can have the option of this more clay area, or if you do like the gravel, you do have that option. This is our first of a few tunnel shots of the course. Short, again, similar distance to 1 and 2, about that 220, 230 range, just dead straight. The tunnel is looking a little rough right now, but maintenance will come out and clean some of this up, maybe clip some of these top branches and definitely some of this outgrowing stuff on the right side. The basket is, or will be, located just on the beginning of where this grassy patch goes straight ahead on the right side of the trail. I'll try and show you the line of the intended line where it's just a straight shot, but whether you do that through a backhand, forehand, lefty, righty, however it works for you. So a a lot of that stuff that I just flew into would be trimmed up, as I'll get into more detail when we get up to the green. So here is a little bit of a better look at the green. For reference, my disc ended up a good 5 foot inside what would be bullseye. But maintenance will probably, well, I'll definitely have maintenance cut up a lot of this stuff here on the right side, just because this green is a little slim. It's a little congested. For reference, here is where the basket will go. Again, this course does have the beginner and the intermediate in mind, and hitting a somewhat tight gap in that tunnel shot can be difficult for beginner and newer players. I don't want people to get too frustrated when they're trying to hit a tunnel shot. Welcome to what will be hole 4. This is the first hole that starts to get a little bit of teeth, but still nothing too crazy. A lot of this overhanging stuff, this one might stay, but some of the overhanging stuff a little further down into the tunnel will be trimmed to really give you that airspace to fly the disc. The basket is obviously straight and comes out a little bit left. It is one of those holes where, yeah, a lot of people will think that you have to get some fade at the end, but realistically, if you just throw a dead straight shot at about 250 feet, maybe a little bit less than that, you'll have a very realistic putt for the 2. Threw a first shot, did not go so well, and I'm trying to show you guys the lines here. So something like that would be a good bit short actually, but just something like that with a little more gusto behind it should leave you in a good position. So here's a view from the green looking back towards the tee pad. You see this tunnel and a lot of these overhanging branches I will get the maintenance team to cut. But as I move guys to the right, see that red flag right in the middle of your screen, signaling where the basket will be. A little bit of a side slope here, but nothing too crazy. Whereas if you do come in with a lot of hyzer on some weird approach, you could get a little bit of a roll away, but the furthest you could end up is give or take 20, 22 feet. So even if you do get some weird roll away, which is again part of the design, you won't, you'll still have a putt at the basket. You won't roll away and end up taking 3 more strokes because of a stupid roll away. I don't want this course to be stupid easy, but let's not make it mean let's not make it mean. And here we are for hole 5. So if you played this course before, if you haven't, I'm sure there are plenty of videos on YouTube. But anyways, this is the exact tee box position of 1. However, the basket will be changing. So the current Mach 3 or whatever model Mach basket that is will be changing. Oh, also, by the way, if you didn't already know, we will be having new baskets. They will be white Innova disc catchers, so high quality baskets, so we won't have any more dead center spit outs on the pull. But instead of that basket straight up ahead about 340, it's going to be a little shorter and tucked into the right where the opening to the trail begins. So with the course design, I think it's important to have a lot of different shots. The first 2 holes kind of give you that straight to hyzer, whereas the other 2 holes give you that 3 and 4, give you sort of a tunnel shot. Now we're getting into an anhyzer left to right to really show some diversity. This one measures in, I think off the top of my head, around 270, maybe a little less, but a pretty significant turnover. So that's kind of exactly how I intended it to shape up for the right-hand backhand. Of course, if you do have that lefty backhand or that right-hand forehand, hanging something straight and overstable to give you some fade is a good line to take. So here's the POV from the green if you happen to go a little long. For reference, my little turnover ended up right here. Makes use of this opening. So if you do go short or long, you could end up in a little bit of trouble. And it's not so far, or I mean not so close that it gets into this trail, which will be used as the fairway for the next hole. So it's nicely spaced, introduces another shot shape to the course, which I really enjoy. Welcome to hole 6. This is basically hole 3, but on steroids. So as hole 3 was just over 200 and that 215, this is another 60, 70 feet further, but same concept. Tee box right here in the trail, pretty wide, so you can use the whole thing. Just going to be going down the trail again about that 270, 280 feet. And then I put the tee box back here so you'd be protected from errant tee shots on the previous hole if people turn their disc over too much. There are some thick woods here to protect you if that were to happen. But I will not be throwing this hole, as this is the one hole where there needs to be some maintenance done. As you can tell, there are a lot of dead trees that have fallen over from hurricanes or other storms and are just kind of blocking what would be the fairway. So I will take you guys to the green, obviously, but this tunnel will be cleaned up for sure. And this will likely play as the most difficult hole on the front nine. So here's the point of view of the green looking back towards the tee box. Right here in this little pocket, this flag will be our basket location. It is very likely that I will try and get maintenance to clean up some of this pocket, but the basket will stay here. I'm not going to push it deeper into that pocket. And again, it's just like a 280-foot-ish straight shot, very similar to hole 3, but just with a little bit more teeth. All right, we are back in the open for hole 7. About 280, similar distance to the previous hole, maybe a little bit longer. Out in the open, our tee box is right here as shown, and the basket, well, you can't see it right now, is way past the current basket, and will be just on the back side of this slope that is coming down left to right a little bit. So there will be a little bit of elevation with the green, which I do like that. And it, again, as it's a blind shot right now, I severely doubt that it will be a blind shot when the basket is actually there. Just a straight shot with some wind, but you can take a couple different angles into the green depending on your play style. So that would be a bit left, but I would still be in decent position. I think I got the distance almost just about right, but the basket is probably a good 15 feet, maybe a little less, right of that, to be on the side of the slope of that little mound. So here is the green, obviously. On the side of this mound, there is definitely some slopage to it. Not that it's that important, but for reference, here's my drive, and this is intended by design, whereas if I were to leave my shot left, as I just did, I would have a tricky death putt coming back down the hill, this mound, if you will. Really nice slope. I do like sloped greens, but this is definitely the most sloped green of the course, as there aren't many slopes on the back nine. But if you do happen to roll down, you can roll into this little gully, valley, whatever you want to call this path, and you'll have a putt back up at the basket. But the basket is not so far up the hill that if you do happen to roll down, you'll be, circle 2. You'll still be at the edge or within the circle, most likely. Welcome to current Furman hole 3, and this will be hole 8 as is. The one change I'll make is I will try and get maintenance to trim up this gap a little bit. For reference, it's 325 according to the sign. I believe it plays a little further than that. Down and to the right, downhill, really cool shot. But again, this gap has grown in over the years, and I believe it is due for a little trim up. I'll try and show you the line, although this is one of the tougher holes on the current course. So kind of like that. I put that on too much hyzer, so I'm going to end up a little bit straight into this stuff. Obviously, you'd want that to turn over a good bit more. Last thing I'll say, we'll likely keep this, and we might make this a par 3. I know it's listed as a par 4, but the pars on the current course are a little wonky. Although, if we do get some traction, as I mentioned, tee pads, tee signs, and possibly even alternate tee positions could be added. And this is one hole where I really want to add a true par 4 by pushing this tee like another 70 to 100 feet back, making it a true par 4. I think that would be really fun. So here's the green from the point of view of my shot, someone who left it too straight. The inspiration of why new baskets were so necessary. This basket is in pretty rough shape and doesn't catch very well. Here is hole 9, current hole 4 of the course, kind of our signature hole on the current 9-hole layout. So this one kind of had this day. It is very scenic. It's a really cool hole. We were considering fully building up that mound and making it an island, but ultimately I think as is pretty good. It encourages a straight or an anhyzer, left to right guy. And the opposite hole will be, the next hole will be coming from back there in the tall stuff, which will be cut, coming the opposite way, which will encourage a hyzer. So having something that encourages a left to right and then something that encourages a right to left is a good little mix. So we will likely just keep this exactly as is. So there's the skinny hyzer I was talking about. Kind of exactly like that. A little long, but nothing wrong with that. I'll try and show you guys the backhand anhyzer really quickly here. Little turnover. But of course, a straight forehand, even one of my officers goes tomahawk here, and it works pretty well for him more often than not. So a lot of different shapes you can take on this one. One of the many reasons why this one is staying. There you go. I apologize for the cicada noise, but this will be the tee of hole 10, kind of. If you can see this red flag here, this little arrow, maintenance will be cutting into this tall stuff, and that will be our tee. It'll be about 8 to 10 feet in there. It's going to be, and in the basket, again, hard to see with the flag, but I'll show you, of course, is going to be a short little hyzer, as I talked about earlier. Short downhill hyzer, really uses the slope and the elevation to a somewhat tighter green, shorter guy, because I know we just had some tougher holes with 6, 7, 8, 9 being a little bit of a tougher stretch of the course. So it's nice to have a short hyzer. A little bit of wind in this little tunnel here, which is really nice. This left pole will be in your vision, but it won't be in your line, as swinging something out towards the right and having it swing back in into the green will be the play. So here's a look as to the green of 10. Again, short little green, nice shaded area, standing right where the pin will be. This hole, if I had to guess, probably plays even a little under 200 downhill. Distance control and angle control will definitely be what is required to put a drive close and secure that birdie. Welcome to what would be hole 11 right here. Short, probably the shortest hole in the course, about 170 downhill, sort of tunnel shot, gives you an ace run. If you do ace run and go long, you'll have a bit of a comebacker. And priority number 1 is this is replacing old hole 5. And for those who know, you were throwing across the Swamp Rabbit Trail right here on my left, on your right. And I can't blame the course designer, because the Swamp Rabbit Trail was added after the course design, but this does eliminate the possibility of hitting a biker and really causing some damage. Something like that. It's pretty good. Just a short little hole. Very easy to go long and have a long putt for your birdie. I just wanted to give you guys the angle of the green going back up to the tee. You can see nice little tunnel shot. And then even my shots that were pretty low into the ground and weren't even really that much of an ace run have both ended up probably 15 or so feet long and about 20, 22 feet long respectively. So here's hole 12 of the course, now really getting into this back stretch where the main priority was avoiding this trail on my left to your right. If you remember playing holes like hole 6 and other holes, this walking trail that right now it's pretty empty, but it does get pretty busy, especially during the weekends when most people play. It does get pretty busy and you end up having to wait a long time for walkers. But I also wanted to show you this angle because this is the longest walk from basket to tee on the course. And then that basket off in the distance is the previous basket. And now to show you, now let me adjust the camera here to show you the actual hole. So you may or may not see the basket of old hole 6, excuse me, over here. We are gonna use this tee pad right here and it is gonna move that basket into this little corner. So it's gonna be the first hole on the course where you really get to let one loose. So something like that right there is exactly what you intend. I did go a little long there, so it does probably play around 320, 330 now that I see that. But a little bit longer, uphill, low ceiling. I like this design. Adds a little something that the course didn't have for the first 11 holes or so. The camera is currently positioned as someone who would have gone long, much like my drive here. But you can see it's a nice little uphill hole. Really like it. Straight shot, low ceiling. Using this nice little green area. While there is a little bit of shrubbery long, it's not so thick that you'll be in trouble. In fact, it might actually stop you and help you not go too long and still have a putt for birdie when you throw what would be a really solid shot. I will say the camera is positioned at a walking trail. Do not take that walking trail right now. The path to the next hole will be as it is right now, going this way. Here is current hole 7 right now, but what will be hole 13, exactly the same, teeing off next to the cabin. Nice downhill scenic hole where you can really take the hyzer, the anhyzer, or the lefty, righty, straight shot, whatever you want. So I do really like this. I'm really glad we convinced staff to let us keep this one because it's a lot better for flow and a lot of other things. Here's the wide hyzer route. A little bit of a guardian tree, but that's just about how you want to do it. Here is the tee of hole 14, one of our more open holes. It's going to play about 320, 330 maybe, probably a little less than that. You can either play it through these trees in this little flower bed area, or you can take a wide hyzer. The basket will be about 30 to 40 feet in front of these big, bushy, thorny vines that we're trying to keep people out of. A little bit of headwind, but I'll try and show you the wide hyzer and the straight guy. I'll start with the straight route. Just missed my line. Clip the trees, and then I'll try and throw the wide hyzer. A little too wide. That would be a little bit wide right, but the distance was mostly right. Here is the green, nice and open. You have to clear this little flower bed. It's not going to be OB or anything, but if you do happen to get stopped, it will leave you at the edge or outside of circle. And then both of my shots, as you saw, were too wide. So they're both pretty far this way. So you do really want to get that height correct on that hyzer. And then for this straight shot, you do really want to hit this gap. So it gives you multiple routes. I really like it. You can let one loose, but it's not super far. In fact, none of these holes are over about 330. This one being probably in that 310, 315 sort of area. Here is the tee of 15, like a slightly further version of 12, the straight shot, where you have to throw under that big branch, but obviously instead of having a big branch as a ceiling, you sort of have this left and right defined fairway that you need to hit. Gonna play, basket is gonna be at the top of that shelf towards that shady area. That's pretty much ideal, exactly how the hole is supposed to shape up. In fact, that might have skidded right by the flag. But that's about how you want to do it. Either a hyzer flip to flip up the hill, something dead straight, or even if you want to put something a little over this right side and have it hyzer in a little bit, there are a few different routes that you can take with this one. I would even see a righty flex forehand or a lefty flex backhand coming into play here. So a lot of different routes for what might be one of the more difficult holes on this course, especially if you end up in that right rough. So here is the green of the 15th, using this open area so the green isn't too enclosed. For reference, my drive would have been about a 12-foot putt, slightly downhill. I could see this hole playing as one of the more difficult holes, but honestly, I won't know for sure until this place opens. Currently, I'm standing on the pad of current hole 8, what will be future hole 16. Admittingly, we didn't want this one to stay as is, tee pad and basket, but we admittingly did run out of space, just full transparency. And this one does use the space quite well, although you also do fly over this sort of common area where a lot of people like to sit and eat and read. But there will be at least one sign that says flying discs, so people will be at least more aware of what's going on. And for the line that I like to throw, I know the line on this one can be a little bit ambiguous. I like the over-the-top sort of panning anhyzer shot. That one's a little too turned over, but if you don't put as much anhyzer as I did on that one, that's kind of what I like to throw. Here is just the green view, the view of the green, looking back at the tee pad, you can kind of see. Here is the tee pad of what will be hole 17. One of the main issues with the old course was hole 9. This running trail, walking trail on the left really came into play, and it was just genuinely unsafe for people running up. So we decided to split this into 2 holes and make them both shorter holes that take you away from this path. This one being a lot shorter and in these little tree areas to give you some shade. This one plays probably around 220, pretty similar to hole 1 in terms of the shot. The basket is located, if you remember, if you know, that there's this big mangrove on my left, and then there's a little mangrove just behind it to the right, and the basket is right in between the two. So something just like that should work out almost perfectly, put you right in that little shady gully sort of area between the two mangroves, which is where the basket will be located, as I will show you right here in a second. Currently, I have the camera set up just past the smaller mangrove-like tree, looking at the green, back towards the tee pad as well. Where I'm standing currently is where the basket will be located, this nice open area, but it is decently protected with the mangrove. I wanted it to be so that if you did miss your shot left, you wouldn't just get through the mangrove and have a cop-out birdie. I felt like that would have been pretty unfair. So if you're in the mangrove, you'll definitely have a super low ceiling putt. And if you do get the height a little bit wrong, like I did a little bit, ended up just a touch short, well, I still have a ideally really easy putt. If I were to accentuate that mistake by a little bit more, I would have a lot harder of a putt. And welcome to last but not least, hole 18. Bit of a gap shot. I have been notified that this stuff on the left here, the wooden stuff, will go away. Honestly, it would be really cool if this wall on the right stays. I think it's going to, but I couldn't tell you for sure. But the hole plays about 270, straight shot. The basket is a bit short of this really tall tree that sort of tilts over to the left, as you can see at the very end of your screen. So I'm glad I threw that, because if you get the height wrong, the hillside will take you really left, and that'll really put you away from the basket. So that is by design, and that was a bad shot. Right in front of you guys is where the basket is going to be. And it does take you away from this path a bit more than the old hole, but it still brings that left side into play with this slight slope. And that'll do it for the 18-hole new Furman disc golf course layout. Designed by me, mostly me. I've definitely gotten some help. And I do need to thank a bunch of people, because this project obviously would not have been possible without them. First of all, I want to thank my fellow students, my officers who helped me design this, specifically Arjun Shukul, Tristan Hoyt, and Matthias, for being such a huge help with the process of the design and really sticking with it through the grind that has been this project. And then for the Furman staff members, couldn't do without you guys, obviously. I want to thank the maintenance crew, including Justin Childress and David Manning. I would like to thank a lot of the sports and rec department in Mackenzie Dawes, Ian Brown, Jordan Cox. Been a really big help in the managing of this place. Couldn't have done it without you guys, of course. And then I also want to thank the Greenville community. I want to thank Jason Short, Corey Wickline, and a few others for walking this place with me, helping me design a lot of these holes. And then I want to thank you guys watching, and the Upstate Disc Golf Club, Upstate Disc Golf members, for talking with me whenever I was in another round just chilling. And it was really great to discuss your thoughts and opinions on the course design, which really did come into play, really helped me realize everyone's perspective, and really shaping up a course that I think is pretty suitable for pretty much every skill level. So thank you guys so much. This project really does mean a lot to me. It's meant the world to me. These past 9 months have been a grind, but I feel like it's all going to pay off when this course gets put in the ground, which in terms of dates, we should be getting the baskets in from Innova second week of August, and the maintenance team should be putting them in during that time. So the course will probably be closed beginning of August, and then should be done late August, just in time for the new semester and the new school year, which will be really awesome, really great for my club. Of course, need to shout out my club, Furman University Disc Golf. It's been awesome building up the club and running the club and meeting so many of you great people and playing so many great rounds with so many, again, awesome students. And then in terms of how this place is going to score, I could only give you a guess, but I would say even par is probably going to be the low to mid 800s, probably that 830, 840. I could definitely see the 900 rated guys, the MA2s, the high MA3s, mid to high MA2s, definitely shooting 5 to 6 under, and I could definitely see that MA1 level shooting double digits or better. And then those local pros could definitely shred this place shooting into the medium double digits, that 14, 15 under possibly. So I could definitely see this course being shredded. I could see it playing well for beginners and well for the intermediates all the way up to the advanced and big throwers. So I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all to wonderful people who have helped make this project possible. This means a lot. This is truly awesome. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you for the grand opening. Have a good one. Peace.